This will sound a little bit metaphysical, but I have learned that the harder you push for something to happen, the less likely it's actually going to happen. The universe is kind of a mirror to your energy. And when you focus too much on the result never happens because you overlook the process to get to the result. So the reality is if you're not getting the results that you want because you're focused on the results, how do you know when to push through or stop? You really have to examine your process. There's really nothing in this world out of your control. Oh, but I don't have money. I don't have resources. It's in your control to go find money and resources. Oh, I don't have time to focus on this, that, and the other. It's in your control to focus, to create the time you need in the process to get to the result that you want. Oh, I don't have the network. I don't know the people. It's in your control to go to the events or whatever the case may be to network and find what the people you need. The flip side is if you review your processes and everything is sound, like this, I did this, I expected that, and that's what I need to get to the next step. I did this, I expected that. That's what I need to get to the next step. I did this, I expected that, and that's what I need to get to the next. If your process is sound, but you haven't hit the result, it's not because of the cause and effect. It's just the timing is not right, just ripe yet. Timing has a lot to do with success. If you finally understand that it's everything about your process is exactly right in the way it should be, you just got to keep going because then all you're waiting for is the time to be right. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the N2N podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. N2N, also known as the Prolific Ninja or Ninja by my family and friends, and because my fans are my friends, you can call me Ninja too. This is the N2N podcast, talking about life, motivation, drive, success, self-improvement, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. A little bit different today. We're back in my conference room. Man, I just got back from a new sport that's kind of new to the United States, which is called paddle, P-A-D-E-L. And if you don't know about this, it is taking the world by storm. It's a cross between pickleball and racquetball with a tennis ball. And I will tell you that this is one of the most athletic sports out there for all of us that to participate in. The reason I played is because actually looking at it as an investment opportunity, given that it has gone viral around the world except for the United States. So if you're interested in an investment opportunity, look at paddle, P-A-D-E-L, as a global phenomenon next to football, or people would call it soccer. Anyway, back in the conference room, a little bit disheveled because of that. Took longer than I thought because I was having such a good time. I'm going to get into the episode real quick, but before I do that, if you're new to the show, if you're new to these episodes, I will tell you that I'm a physician, also a lawyer, also a business guy. Have had this law firm here for 25 plus years, helping thousands of people recover millions of dollars in settlements. I'm associated in healthcare, IT, crypto, blockchain, different projects, high-end, low-end, across the board. And so I can't accomplish any of that without giving thanks. Thanks to God and the universe for the blessings and the opportunity and the talent. So with that, I always start with every episode by giving thanks. When I wake up every morning, the first thing I do is thank God, the universe, for another opportunity. And with that, I want to thank you all for sharing, liking, commenting, following, subscribing, everything, because I do this on my own dime, on my own time, pay for this team that you can't see behind the camera, pay for all of this to bring free content to you. So the way this works is on a karmic exchange, meaning if you learn something from this episode or any other episode, please share the show or else you're going to owe me a karmic debt. And when you die, you don't want to be owing anybody anything. So please do share the show or follow my projects. I like to say if your knowledge swells, share the show. That's how we grow. And that is indeed how we've grown over the last 3 years straight, putting out an episode every single week consistently for the world to consume and hopefully reach our mission, which is affecting billions of lives and inspiring people to live to their fullest controllable potential. So quickly, if you followed my last week's episode on tariffs, remember I said if you know the global plan, stick with it. Don't worry about the gyrations in between and take advantage of the plan. So what did I tell you? So me personally bought crypto when it's low. Blockchain, Bitcoin was like, I don't know, got as low as 73. Where's it at today? Back up to 88. So when you know the bigger plan, right? Stocks have fallen, Crypto is now dissociating from stocks, which means what? Soon crypto will be able to stand on its own as its own economic asset. Think about that. So, not saying you should buy. Go look at Legacy X, my token that I've launched, or go look at any of the other cryptos, not meme coins, none of that BS, but like real world use case cryptos, and you will see that there's opportunity there. In fact, I was just back from Austin over a 2-week conference on Bitcoin, back to Dallas this week to talk about Bitcoin and mining, back to Austin the week following talking about Bitcoin, mining, and crypto. So if it's not a phenomenon to you, trust me, it is. So you should get interested. You should get involved one way or another. The easiest way to get involved, whatever you can afford, $1, $5, $10, $20, $100, $1,000, just put in a buy every day or every week, whatever you can afford. And don't even think about it. An auto buy. And soon enough, a year from now, you would have accumulated enough where it'll be worthwhile to you, okay? Something to think about. But in any case, it goes to sticking to the overall plan. And I got this question from an audience member, actually somebody in the studio. The question was, or is, how do you know when to stay with the plan when things are not working versus just giving up? Okay, so I'll go back to the main question of this episode. How do you know when sticking to the plan is not the right decision and you should either pivot or just give up? Okay? And this is how I handle these situations, right? With time and experience, you're just going to get an intuitive feel if things are going or working or not, right? For me personally, I will know it just, I don't know how, but overall, through my world and life's experience, and I've been on this world now coming up 51 years next month, that there are certain vibes you can get when you know things are not working and that you're just pounding your head up against the wall for no reason. That's what's called insanity, right? Repetitively doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. Okay? But let's just say you don't have that intuitive experience. You're just starting out. You're young. You're in your teens or your 20s or your 30s. How do you know when to stay with the plan when things are not working? Or how do you know when to quit and pivot or go the other way? Several factors, right? Several factors. And this will sound a little bit metaphysical, but I have learned that the harder you push for something to happen, the less likely it's actually going to happen. The universe is kind of a mirror to your energy. And when you focus too much on the result never happens because you overlook the process to get to the result. So the reality is if you're not getting the results that you want because you're focused on the results, how do you know when to push through or stop? You really have to examine your process above all things else because the process will lead to the result. So if you're not getting the result that you want, that means what? Not that you're not able to get it or you can't get it or that it's not meant for you. It's actually there's something broken in your process. Right? So you have, if you're not getting the result that you want after time and time and time, you're spending your time, you must really, really re-examine, dig down, put a microscope onto it. What is your process? Break it down. What are the steps in the process to the result that you want? Right? So, A, not getting your results, look at the process. Don't give up. Don't pivot. Don't stop. Don't quit. The only ultimate failure is quitting. So don't quit. Now dig into the process because if you listen to this podcast for a while, you understand that it's a causal effect. There's that scene, I don't know how many episodes ago, the scene from The Matrix where Neo and Trinity and Morpheus enter this fancy restaurant and they come across the Merovingian, the Frenchman. And I'm paraphrasing it, but he's like, why are you here? And they're like, you know why we're here. And he says, I know why you're here, but do you know why you're here? And they have this dialogue and back and forth, and ultimately his punchline was, the only thing that matters is cause and effect. What is the cause? What is the effect? So everywhere in your process, there's a cause and an effect. and the cumulative effect of that process is your result. So you got to examine every step of your process to success as to, okay, what did I do and what was the result? What did I do? What was the result? And somewhere along your process, I promise you, if you're not getting the result that you want, something you did in the steps did not result in the right effect to affect the downstream effects in your process. Because it's like A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. But if you go A to B to C, and then C diverges off what is supposed to happen, then you're going off a different branch. That's not going to lead to your result. It's a very linear approach, cause and effect, to get to the final result that you want. Okay? So you got to re-examine that and understand that process your process in order to decide whether or not to stop, pivot, or quit. And so the only reason you would quit is after you examine your process, that there are things in there that you have no control over, where the cause and effect puts you off course or isn't what you needed to get to your result. And I will say that again, because this whole mission of this podcast is to inspire people to live to their fullest controllable potential. So the only reason you would ever quit anything is that whatever is resulting in your process not leading to the end result that you want is out of your control. If it's out of your control, you can't do anything about it. But the reality is if you really examine the issues and the problems, there's really nothing in this world out of your control. There's really nothing in this world out of your control. Because why? Your attitude, your thought process, your energy, your intent, all these things are in your control. Oh, but I don't have money, I don't have resources. It's in your control to go find money and resources. Oh, I don't have time to focus on this, that, and the other. It's in your control to focus, to create the time you need in the process to get to the result that you want. Oh, I don't have the network, I don't know the people. It's in your control to go to the events or whatever the case may be to network and find what the people you need. So unless it is absolutely out of your control, you have an ability to keep pushing forward. It's just your process is wrong. There's something in the process that's wrong. Now, what are things beyond your control? Well, man, if a hurricane comes through and like the city of Houston, for my example, would shut down for a month and things are out of my control, yeah, that's out of your control. But even within that scenario, there are things in my control. Right? So although our mission is to inspire billions to live to the fullest controllable potential, the reality is it's just to inspire you to really dig deep, really introspect, think about what you want, think about, most importantly, how you're going to go about getting what you want, because all of that is in your control. So it's not a practical thing on whether to quit or not, or how do you know when to quit, how do you know when to pivot, how do you know to go back. I mean, all these things are possible. But unless you break down the process in your path, in your journey, unless you break through the processes and understand what part of that process is throwing you off the path to where you need to go, there's no reason to quit. The problem is most people don't take the time to really dig deep into their processes. It's a raw feeling to say, man, I messed up here. It's a raw feeling to look in the mirror and say, man, I fucked up in this spot here and I need to change it there. Most people will not admit to themselves that your ego gets in the way. Now, I just got off the phone with a multi-billionaire. Sold 3 companies for 9-figure exits. To do the math, that's hundreds of millions of dollars. 3 companies. And, during our conversation, it struck me like this guy goes really deep into his processes. And he believes in his processes to just push through regardless of the outcome. And his statement to me is, I can't reveal who this was, but his statement to me was, after prayer, meditation, all these things. And not everything went well. He's been kicked out of companies, I don't want to say betrayed by partners, but he's been done wrong several times. Still had these successes. He says, you know what, Jan? My revelation is that I keep the outcomes really light. And I focus on the process. And if it's a negative outcome, I got to understand that it just wasn't meant to be that time. But if my processes are sound, what'll happen is supposed to happen. Or I should say, what is supposed to happen will happen. And that's the way you should look at it. There's no, when do I know to quit or pivot? No. The only way to know is that if you've audited your processes and understood every step of the way that led you to where you are now, to go back and review that and understand where you should have done something different that would have led to a different outcome. Unless you do that work, you shouldn't quit. But most people quit. 100 people start a business. After year one, 90% of those have already quit. After year two, of the remaining 10, 80% of those already quit. Now there's only 2 people left standing. 5 years later, one of those 2 has probably quit. So are you going to be the last man standing or woman standing? Okay, well, to get to that point, you got to understand there will be failures, there will be heartbreak, there will be frustration, hate, jealousy, all the negative feelings you're going to feel from inside and out. It's going to make you want to quit. May not ever get the result you want until year 6. But are you going to make it to year 6? That's the big question. Are you going to quit prior to that? Like 99% of everybody that does. Now, I'll tell you this. If you get close to that, man, I want to quit. This is too hard. Review your processes. Because the flip side is if you review your processes and everything is sound, like this, I did this, I expected that, and that's what I need to get to the next step. I did this, I expected that. That's what I need to get to the next step. I did this, I expected that, and that's what I need to get to the next. If your process is sound, but you haven't hit the result, it's not because of the cause and effect. It's just the timing is not right, just ripe yet. Timing has a lot to do with success. And if you finally understand that it's everything about your process is exactly right in the way it should be, you just got to keep going, because then all you're waiting for is the time to be right. Timing plays a huge part of it. One of my episodes, I forget which one again, money is always flowing, right? You just need a position in front of the flow. And that flow, that wave might come tomorrow, that wave might come next week, next month, next year. But if your processes are right, you're going to be positioned in front. Now, I have had times where I quit and I saw the money wave coming, I quit, and that wave just passed me right by. And I watched other people make the bank. Man, that hurts. Hurts real bad. Because you were right. You were there. You had the right ideas. You executed. But you just didn't stay in the game long enough. And that wave of money just flew right on by. Flew? Is that right? That crashed right on by. That hurts more than going all the way and potentially failing. Okay? So going back to the main question, how do you know when it's time to quit versus is it stupid to keep going? Or that's a loaded question, because you can't answer that until you once again review your processes. So here we are in May, about to be May. Summer's about to hit. Okay? This is a great time to review the processes that have gotten you this far this year. Are you not where you wanted to be or yet? Then review your processes. Are you beyond? Have you achieved more than you thought you would achieve in 2025? If so, review your processes. Amplify what's been going really well and do more of that to get even more success. But everything relies on the process. There is no signal to quit. There is no signal to change, right? Unless you're not getting the results you want, you need to review your processes. So, glad to be back in my conference room to bring this episode to you. For those of you who celebrated Easter, I hope it was a great Easter weekend. A lot of things move in this world. The Pope, passed away, so now we have, I think it's called a conclave of who's the next Pope, which is really going to matter relative to the global geopolitical world. What they accept as right and wrong, etc. I think close to 2 billion people on this planet are Catholic or Christian, so it matters. Stay focused on that. Not that you need to stay focused on it, but be aware of what's going on with that. Because, if something's affecting, 1 or 2 billion people across the planet, you might want to be aware of that. Okay? So, the Pope's passing, the China tariff wars are escalating. Go back to my last episode and understand that. But if you know the global plan for your life and across the board, don't worry about these little gyrations in between. Don't be affected by that. I just invested in another company. It's a mental health mobile app for athletes, student athletes, all the way to pros. And the conversation was, if you don't direct your ship in where you want to go, talking about ocean ship, like your yacht or whatever, if you don't direct it in the right direction, you're going to react to every wave in between. And if you react to every wave in between, you're going to end up way off course. So if you point your ship in the direction, regardless of whatever the waves push you left or push you right or push you high or low, whatever, stay in the direction. And that's the same thing here, okay? Understand your processes, stay the course, and let's focus on success over the next several months of the summer. So, glad to be back in the studio, in my conference room. I'm going to close this episode as I close every episode, which is giving thanks. When I close my eyes at night, for those of you new to the show, when I go to bed, last thing I think about before I doze off to sleep is I thank God and the universe for another day to be great. Hopefully, we've inspired just one person to live to their fullest controllable potential, and hopefully today that's you. And if you found value in the show, please do share the show. Again, it's on a karmic exchange. Don't owe me a debt for the value you got. So if you're knowledgeable, share the show, or go to any of the projects I'm working on, cureconnector.com, legacyxtoken.com, PFASinjuryattorney.com. That one is where it's a mega litigation trying to help as many people with cancer as possible as to the forever chemical that's in our waters. 99% of Americans have PFAS in our blood, doubles your risk of cancer. So go visit those websites, support my projects, support this show. I want to thank you all for listening. So be great today, but be even more grateful. And I look forward to bringing another episode very, very soon.